Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Final Fantasy VII Remake commentary. And we are here in the materia menu checking out what our materias are. Don't ever use chakra. Chakras, no, that's bad advice. It seems useless early on, but just trust me, it's good.
You know who really gets good use out of chakra? Barret.
Yeah, actually, kinda. Chakra is a healing materia that doesn't use MP, which automatically makes it a really handy thing to have on at least one of your party members at any given time.
Or in hard mode.
But it's not quite as easy to use as Cure materia because I think it uses more ATB. So
Well, then if you're me, what you will do in order to save MP is stall out the battle and then till everybody is healed with the MP-free healing item.
well, it's a lot harder to stall out the battle. But in any case, weapon upgrades.
You don't. No, I'll do it. You don't understand. I will do it.
In any case, here we have the weapon upgrading system, showing it off in full glory. It looks like the Crystarium, but it's 20 times as interesting, trust me. I'm glad they brought back that visual effect, though, because the Crystarium in Final Fantasy XIII was very purty.
So what you're saying is this is just Final Fantasy 13, but good.
Well, in a lot of ways, yeah. I mean, Final Fantasy XIII was clearly trying to go for more of a real-time, quasi-turn-based system, where you are controlling your party by controlling their AI through the flow of battle and all. But,
I mean, it just comes full circle because Ring Lightning was designed specifically to be female Cloud.
yeah.
Which is why her name is Lightning, because she comes from a cloud.
The ironic thing is that this action RPG has more party control than that quasi-turn-based system did. And yeah, I know that in Final Fantasy XIII, too, they let you switch to the other party member whenever you wanted, but there was only one other party member, so it wasn't exactly a huge deal. It was nice that you could die as the party member you were controlling and continue fighting as the other, but that was about it. The battle system was already designed so that, you know, the maximum tactics you needed could all be accessed by playing as one party member. But as you can see, in this game, you can freely switch, and there are advantages to switching party members. For one thing, your party members will never use their ATB commands unless you directly tell them to, so you can't just expect them to win the battle for you. They're just going to do a decent job of blocking and dodging attacks if you just leave them to their own devices. But, you want to give them manual commands all the time. You want to watch all the ATB bars and get those manual commands out whenever you can. You also want to switch rather frequently because the party members won't use their special abilities like Tifa's whirling uppercut over here.
Also, obviously, while you're in control, you're doing a lot more basic hits to build up their ATB faster than...
I don't think they should be stressed. ATB fills up faster when you're controlling them manually.
ATB fills up faster when you're controlling them manually, and their special manual control-only abilities also have a large impact on the ATB. So if you want to make the most of your entire party at once, you're going to be switching very frequently. You saw during Chapter 1 that I was switching back and forth between Cloud and Barret very frequently, even when it seemed like maybe I didn't need to. That's because Barret has his overcharge ability, and when he fires that off, he gets a massive ATB boost. He charges that faster when you're in manual control. He also has a manual control only command that lets him like reload his gun, and that gives him a massive boost to his charge meter. So if you want to get the most out of overcharge, you have to switch to Barret. But you can't use Punisher mode unless you're controlling Cloud directly. And Punisher mode is the best way to do damage and boost stagger with Cloud, especially if you're using his abilities in tandem with that. And when he's in Punisher mode, he can do the counter hits, which are also really good for building ATB and stagger. So if you want to make the most of both characters at once, you have to switch between both characters very frequently. It's probably the most fun aspect of the combat, and it's part of the reason that I'm kind of not on board with the okay, I'm going to assign everything to a shortcut and play this game like a real-time action game thing, which feels like it's only here as a concession to people who would rather have Final Fantasy XV or Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts more, I would say. Because I remember when this was making the rounds, like conceptually, and that Nomura was in charge of directing it, and we caught a first glimpse of the battles that everyone thought Kingdom Hearts.
Well, from what I recall, the combat system had people from Kingdom Hearts 2 specifically on its design, and that is a good thing because Kingdom Hearts 2 is the most technically solid Kingdom Hearts combat system.
Yeah, it's still the best one, I would say.
Oh, better than 3? I mean, I haven't
Yeah.
played it, but I thought...
3 is the best efforts of... I forgot what the name of the development team was starting with Birth by Sleep and Dream. I think it was the Osaka team or some other shit. They started working on Kingdom Hearts games with Birth by Sleep, but they never quite got it down to the technical level of 2.
It's what we're talking about is okay. A lot of people really won't care about this in the context of Kingdom Hearts. They just want to hack and slash and do flashy moves, and that's all good. But in Kingdom Hearts 2, they had that, but on a technical level, the combat flowed into each other in a much more organic way that enabled a higher skill ceiling. I would say would be a good way to describe it. Like you could get good at the combat system, and you would perform better than if you get good at Kingdom Hearts 3. You know.
Yeah, which I should stress, not really an important thing. I like casual level.
Oh yeah.
Like if you just want to play the game however you want. Doesn't really
casual level Kingdom Hearts is fine, and the game is
I'm
really
a bonk
geared
him
for
with
that.
my stick.
But you're probably going to have
basically.
more fun on the higher difficulties of Kingdom Hearts 2 than you'll have on the higher difficulties of Kingdom Hearts 3, because the mechanics are there to enable you to be better at the game.
Yes. Starting with Birth by Sleep and Beyond, the new development team was more about, well, how flashy can we make these attacks look, and not necessarily how mechanically better they feel just executing them. You know, which I think 3 did it the best, but it was still very brain dead because they gave you so much.
Mm-hmm. But in any case, because the KH2 developers were on the combat system in this game, well, I feel like that technical expertise really shines through because you can get a lot of mileage out of this game's combat system. It is amazing, and I can't wait until part 2 where the rest of the characters get added in, because, you know, I can see them doing some crazy things even with the party members that are widely considered the bad ones in the original game.
Well, I'm just curious how they'll make the stupid Moogle robot move around in the 3D space
No,
for combat.
I'm curious, and I'm excited to see how it works, because that would be... he would probably be the most unique feeling of the bunch, if nothing else. Although I expect...
I want them to make Kate Sith the best party member in the game.
I expect that Kate Sith will also be another slow one like Barrett.
Most likely,
I'm
yes.
really interested in seeing what they do with Yuffie, because that kind of throwing a chakram-like giant Fuma shuriken around has a lot of potential for some interesting ranged combat. And
Yeah, she could just be the dancer from 14. And just only a lot faster.
Dancer combined with ninja, huh?
Yes.
But like, well, that sums up Naruto in a nutshell, doesn't it? Huh.
I guess.
Dancer combined with ninja. Suddenly the universe makes more sense. Okay. What was I saying? Okay, we got our first new sword. And I really, really like the way they handled the upgrade system for the swords. Okay. How much did we explain in part 3? Because I think we went into it in part 3.
Just about the SP more than anything.
About the SP, how they all level up. Okay, so...
Yes, and then we tried to talk about it in part 5, but...
Okay.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Nobody's gonna understand that.
And don't explain it. Just keep going.
Okay.
Okay. We don't do 2 takes, we just do 5. Anyway. So, the weapons, they have this Final Fantasy IX thing going on, where they all have different skills attached to them. It's only 1 skill per weapon this time, but basically you have to equip the weapon and fight enemies until you've reached 100% for proficiency with that ability. You always...
Which you have to actually use that ability in battle. You can't just have it equipped.
Yeah, you always start with 100% proficiency with your default weapons, so you don't have to learn that one, fortunately. But the skills, they are, you really want to learn as many skills permanently with every character as you can, because the characters really, really start to shine in combat when you have all their skills at your fingertips at once, and you can start combining them in interesting ways. Cloud here is all about setting up that stagger gauge for one monumental attack.
What was that word you just used? That word?
He pronounces it as gauge, but you can also say
Oh,
gauge.
tomato,
Oh,
tomato.
that's so gauge.
Tomato, potato. Now, right. So it's all about setting up the stagger for one monumental attack, right? Early game, the only way you can really do that is with your limit break. But once you get hard edge a little bit later in the game, you gain an ability called Infinity's End, right? Infinity's End has a long spinny wind up that takes, like, I'm trying to imagine in my head, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it takes a full 5 seconds to go off, which is insane. And it also takes 2 ATB bars, so you need a full ATB bar in order to use it, and you're losing your ability to use other moves in the meantime by doing that. So at first glance, it appears like too cumbersome to be handy, but it does a ridiculous amount of damage when the enemy is staggered, especially if you got Tifa or Aerith up there to drive up the percentage after they're staggered. You can have them driving up the percentage while the windup is happening even. If you can nail a staggered enemy with Infinity's End at a high percentage, it's beautiful. It's fucking beautiful. The most satisfying feeling you'll ever get in this game. Even more satisfying than pulling off a limit break at the right time, to be honest. Because you had to set that shit up. You worked for that. So
I don't know. I pulled off 1 or 2 really close limit breaks in this game.
oh yeah.
One of them particularly against Rufus.
Oh yeah, you pull off Cloud's second level limit break against Rufus. It's just the best feeling in the world, because that asshole is just so good at avoiding damage. So if you can nail him with a big damage hit like that, it's just like, yeah, finally got you, bitch. But we'll get to him. That's the most Devil May Cry moment in this game.
Yep.
Rufus is fucking crazy.
Unfortunately, he's also the epitome of Squidward Tentacles quote of, "Oh
What
no,
was
he's
that?
hot."
What was that word, Brian? Epitome? Is that what you think that word is?
Epitome.
Oh my god, it's just it's the epitome. Everybody has one of those goddamn words.
Yeah,
we learned.
it's the epitome. This part is the epitome of you guys not being able to speak English.
Yeah, I think I can name one for you, John. I know what word you've got.
Was how long are we reaching here? Because
Much to their discharging. What the hell is that
Discharging.
word? I'm pretty sure that's
What?
not how that word goes. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's
What?
not even how it's spelled. You say that in your reviews a lot.
wait, which one? What are we talking about?
I just said it.
Much to their discharge.
Something like that. You pronounce it that way anyway. I'm pretty sure you're just straight up saying the wrong word though.
Okay. Well, what should I do? What should I be?
It
using
starts
then?
with a CH, chagrin.
You don't even know what I should be saying.
No one uses this word in conversation. It's something that's used in books, but not in words, not in verbally.
You mean much to their chagrin?
Chagrin, yes, that's the one.
It's like, hold on, you know I'm saying something wrong.
Well, it's because I've read it a lot, and I know it's not spelled that way.
I don't know what the proper word is, but I just know that one's wrong.
I mean, that happens a lot.
I suppose so. Like, I thought you were gonna go back as early as like when I used to say, no, fuck you. I thought it was chasm. I used to say chasm a lot. It's chasm.
Chasm.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's it. Well, it is spelled that way, so that's understand.
Chasm is like when you're talking about your friend Chaz, and it's like, you just got to go and chasm.
Or if Chaz has a specific way of speaking, no, that's Channerin.
Anyway, this side quest here for Android Boy Chadley. Yes, spoiler alert, he's a sci-fi android. He's an entirely new character and not a particularly interesting one, but he does have his role in the game. Okay, so this side quest you're doing with Chadley is just here to sort of introduce to you that we're doing that Trails of thing, where, for completion, you have to scan every enemy in the game and get their full scan data.
Boy,
Unlike the Trails games, you do get a chapter select at the end of this game, so it's not as big of a headache if you miss one enemy and have to go back for it.
Yeah, that's always That's always annoying.
In
One of
my-
my favorite things.
My Trails of
Oh,
Cold
God.
Steel 2 playthrough just recently, I scanned every enemy in the game except Eustace in that one duel in the early game, and now I need to play through the game again if I want that trophy. I'm just like,
Yeah, one of my favorite things about Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is they have the catalog, which is a similar thing. And you can go back to any area in the game, but if you ever miss a boss or whatever, the note is just crumpled up in the trash can in the professor's office. So you can go and look in there, and then you'll get the tattle data for any boss or other enemy
okay, that's good.
that you can't. Yeah, so every game should have a workaround like that to keep it so that you can't just miss certain bestiary entries. I think a lot of Final Fantasy games are bad about that.
Fortunately, in Trails of Cold Steel, even though there is a trophy attached to scanning everything, the actual in-game reward that you get for scanning a number of enemies is just for like some percentage of the enemies that are in the game, like maybe 100 or so. 100 or so of the enemies, you get the item. That's good.
Yeah, but if for the people who want every single item in the bestiary like filled out, then that's where it gets really annoying. Because what people consider to be completion in RPGs is somewhat arbitrary. I think it's just like, well, what's 100% completion if the game doesn't track percentages? It's like, do you have to get every item in the bestiary? Do you have to do X, Y, Z? It's silly.
Generally, from most RPG speedrunners, will just say 100% is all major items like weapons and stuff, and all side quests.
I like how they have this score tally for all the monsters you've killed in the first section. You need to get 50 of them to get the maximum reward, by the way.
It's been 0 days since we last had a plate fall on top of us.
Okay, so, battle intel missions. These are little side objectives that you can tackle pretty much at any time during the game, and you need to complete these in order to unlock the summon missions. Since there's no organic way to really get the summons into the story, and they really weren't integrated organically in the original story anyway, they just have Chadley here create the materia for you if you do missions for him. In order to get the summons, you have to do an optional virtual reality boss fight against each summon, and there are a surprising number of summons in this game, considering the game only covers the part of the game that had no summons in it. But yeah, you can get like Shiva, Fat Chocobo, Chocomog you
Leviathan.
actually just find, in fact. What other ones? Ifrit, Leviathan. Fuck Leviathan, that boss fight sucks.
Bahamut, Neo Bahamut Zero, Bahamut Omega.
Fortunately, only one
just goes on in
Bahamut
the
in this
background.
part, but that probably just means part 2 is going to have Neo Bahamut. I wonder if they're going to...
Composition
I wonder
of
if they're
this.
going to have Bahamut Sin as a summon, though. From Advent Children.
For Advent
Yeah,
Children,
that's what it's called, Bahamut Sin.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I'm not expecting it, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm surprised they didn't include skins for the Advent Children designs, actually.
The composition of this version of the prelude reminds me a lot of 10's version, and that's my biggest takeaway from the soundtrack as a whole. I absolutely love the game, the music of this game.
Oh, yes.
Like big time. I feel like it's a proper continuation and of the original 7's soundtrack, and that's also because the folks from 10 and 13, along with Nobuo Uematsu, collaborated for this soundtrack.
Not sure how hot of a take this is, but best version of One Winged Angel.
Wait, they have
Best
One Winged
version
Angel in
and-
this game
Yeah.
already?
Yeah. Again, that's going into a very late game.
Well, I
But-
did say that you fought
whatever.
Sephiroth, didn't I?
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
of course, One Winged
Did
Angel.
they have the other Sephiroth boss fight theme in this game?
Well, no.
Which one?
The other one.
Oh, the one where you
that-
fight in Bizarro?
Well, no,
Sephiroth?
you don't
The
fight
one,
Bizarro.
the first phase theme.
Yeah. No, that's not in this game.
Oh, god damn it.
Well, you don't fight Bizarro here. You just fight...
I think it was Birth of a New God. That's what it was. That's the name of the track.
Yeah, but you're not fighting giant one-winged...
Well, you're not
huge
fighting that one either.
tentacle leg Sephiroth in this game, I'm assuming.
No. You're fighting human Sephiroth.
But favorite
Yeah.
tracks in this game are One Winged Angel, Air, and Airbuster theme.
Oh, yes.
Well, the Airbuster theme is like just, oh my god, because you hear inklings of the original boss theme scattered throughout like other battles before Airbuster,
But
but then Airbuster just fucking drops it.
yeah, and it's so hype when it happens.
There are a couple of remixes of the battle theme and the boss theme, actually, throughout the soundtrack, I think. It's
Yeah.
a
Yeah, but Airbuster's best one.
It's interesting because the battle theme is obviously one of the most recognizable aspects of the soundtrack because you hear it so goddamn much. But we're in real time now. We don't have battle transitions, so there's no reason to have a battle theme that plays throughout the entire game. So what you get are a mix of Kingdom Hearts-like battle transitions in the dynamic soundtrack and actual moments where they're playing some version of the original battle theme because it's an epic gauntlet of encounters that you have to go through.
Yeah.
And encounters that are fully scripted, so they know when they can put it in.
Sometimes
Exactly.
they just flat out play the regular battle theme for a boss battle because the Final Fantasy battle theme was just that epic. This side quest is annoying. You go over here to fight some rats for this guy, but it turns out to be the wrong rat, so you have to go back and talk to him, and then get the Doom rats to appear.
So they're the wrong rats?
Oh yeah, he
Yes,
wanted
these are bigger ones.
He wanted a specific breed of big rats called Doom rats killed, but you wound up just killing some regular rats. The Doom rats, by the way, are really annoying.
You're talking about how epic these encounters are when they play the original music, and they're literally just like rats.
You don't know.
These are really big rats, though, Ted. Come on.
You don't know the pain of trying to fight the Doom rats, though. Okay, these guys zip around and they're always hitting you from off screen, and these guys continue to stay relevant when you're fighting them in VR missions later on. You'd think that an early game mini-boss would stop being relevant after you beat it early game. No, the Doom Rat gets to be an annoyance when you're fighting other guys.
Doom rats are eternal.
Look at me trying to actually...
Doom Rat Eternal.
Look at me trying to actually nail these guys
Doom Rat Eternal.
with their weakness when ice spells are the most fiddly spells in the game to hit things with. Okay, that's another thing.
Okay, Cloud, just sit there and get nod on. I'm going to cast ice.
Blizzard is like a landmine in this
Yeah,
game.
that's another thing
Yeah.
I like about the magic system in this game is that not only do the spells have different elements that they attack with, but they also have different tactical advantages. Like the fireball spell is a projectile that you throw and it explodes for splash damage. The lightning spell always unerringly hits enemies, even if there's something between you and them, because it attacks from above. And it attacks, it's a lightning bolt. You can't dodge a lightning bolt. Riku.
Tell Titus that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the sigils and 10 would like a word with
The
you.
Blizzard spells, the Blizzard class is the most fiddly class of spells to actually hit with. I used to not like it very much because it's really hard to hit enemies with them when they're moving around. But that just means you have to time them well in order to hit them. And if you do, it staggers them more effectively than the other two spells.
I gotcha.
So it's actually I say staggers because I'm thinking of the because I'm saying. I don't mean the stagger bar. I mean it interrupts. It causes them to stumble and
Big number, hurt much.
it causes them to stumble and lose whatever they were trying to do. So yeah. Anyway, the battle intel missions, little side objectives that you need to complete during combat, do pay attention to these because the summons are really good. You want to get those summons. So for the first few ones, you need to first hit 3 different enemies with their elemental weaknesses, which is why I was going out of my way to hit the Doom Rats with ice, by the way. The other ones are that you need to stagger 15 different enemy types, which is not going to happen for a little while. But you really do need to focus on staggering enemies as often as possible in order to get those stagger objectives done. Which is harder than it looks, because a lot of the enemies will often die before you can stagger them. And it's really annoying. So you have to really, try to stagger these guys. Oh, one of the things you want to watch out for at the shops is that every shop and every vending machine will have a limited number of items on sale for a discount. And you'll always want to grab those when you can, because it's a good way to save money. And unlike Final Fantasy VII OG, you're probably going to be using all this shit. So it's good to have for as little money as possible. That's just economics. Buy the stuff that you'll use for less money. Yeah.
Hey, Cloud, need your help.
Totally not stating the obvious.
I have to tell you that I'm grateful.
But in any case, yeah, whenever I get to a new shop, what I end up doing is just buying up everything that they have on discount immediately.
How good is this game? Like, how much money management do you have to do in this game? Because
Not
Final Fantasy
too
VII,
much,
you
not
didn't
too
have to care
much.
about money at all.
Not too much. If you're buying smart, buying all the discount items is a good way to save money.
Damn it! You should have said buying smart at smart. Damn it! Easy Evil Dead reference.
You just bought it. You're so smart. You just bought it at Mallow Mart.
The only times I ever felt like I was hurting for money were like at a few select places where you get to a new shop or a vending machine and it has a new materia that you don't have yet in it. And those can be generally kind of expensive as you go through the game. But for the most part, like the really important stuff, the weapons, except for like one or two exceptions, the weapons are obtained through quests or found as you journey through the game. So you don't have to buy weapons. And you'll generally find enough materia along the way that you don't need to buy duplicates much. So unless you just have a particular strategy that requires more than you have of a particular materia, and that materia can be bought, I wouldn't recommend buying materia much. Your characters don't really gain that many materia slots throughout this game, so it's not, you're not really going to have much room for everyone to have every element that you would want them to have. You're going to have to pick and choose. I do actually like that limitation. It's not too restrictive, but it doesn't get quite as ridiculous as it did by Endgame OG, where everyone had 16 slots, and you could put everything on everyone that you needed, and everyone was just the same beat stick as everyone else by the end. Armor, in particular, doesn't really get that many slots in this game. Most of your slots are going to be from upgrading your weapons. So you're always going to be a little tight on space. Let's see. What are we doing now?
We're killing that dog.
Oh, right. Right, the wild animal. This is a slightly annoying one because every time you do so much damage to it, it runs off in a scripted event and you can't finish it off until you chase it down to its next location.
Hello, Doomgaze. We meet again.
It's one of those, although, not halfway as annoying as Doomgaze. That said, one of the things you do have to watch out for in this game is that the monsters do indeed move like they are monsters. So when you're fighting a human, they move in a pretty easy to understand way, right? When you're fighting something like Wrathhound here, it's jumping around, pouncing around, it'll pin you to the ground. It's just altogether way more agile than the human enemies. Meanwhile, the heavy mech type enemies are slow and attack you with ranged weapons and stuff. The movement patterns always fit the kind of enemy that you're fighting. Which means that some enemies are really annoying to hit, as you would expect them to be.
But they do have tells for the most part.
Yeah, they do have tells. Yeah, we're not in those situations.
I mean, besides the obvious attack name appearing above their head. But body language is also just as important.
Yeah. It gives the combat a sense of variety that I don't think you would have gotten from a turn-based system, because you have to read and react a lot more. Whereas, well, I feel like I'm dunking on the original game. I like the original game, but like, you saw a sweeper, bolt spell, dead. You saw a guard hound, attack, dead. And that was pretty much how the random battles went. And it was all.
Well, that's just an RPG.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
it's an easy RPG. You don't get that kind of.
Yeah.
You don't get that kind of basic ass response to basic ass action from something a little bit more hardcore like a Dragon Quest.
Yeah, but I mean, and I love Dragon Quest, and I'm not the hugest Final Fantasy fan in the world.
Yeah, but even in a hard turn-based battle, once you figure out the strategy for taking out a particular group of enemies, the only real variation is, do I want to do this the long way and save MP on this particular fight, or do I want to do it the quick and dirty way and expend some MP?
But that's always, I thought, was the thing that gave Final Fantasy its more mass appeal.
That it was easier?
Was that, yeah, well, not necessarily that it was easier, but that it was more, well, yeah, that it was easier. It was approachable.
That's my takeaway from it, because that's why I always enjoyed Final Fantasy more than other art. But granted, I haven't played most of those yet.
Yeah, it's kind of like, in terms of like, if you, for example, if you look at a lot of platformers or whatever, games like Mario are generally more popular than games like Mega Man or Castlevania. Not that those are unpopular, mind you, but Mario has that wide appeal because, generally speaking, the games are approachable and fun and not too hard.
Yeah, and I
and-
understand that on an academic level, but I'm not like 10 years old anymore. I'm 32, and in my 32s, I kind of want a more consistently engaging and challenging experience from my games. So I tend to gravitate more toward, like, in a turn-based sense, I tend to gravitate more toward Dragon Quest and Trails these days because there's more consistent work that needs to be done to get through the battles.
I understand that, because it's really frustrating when you're talking to people who are like, oh no, Dragon Quest is bad because you just grind until you win, and I'm like, did you try using this entire list of status effect spells and stat buffs that they have in this menu? It's like, no, I just was using magic and hit. Yeah, but if you put them to sleep, you end up using less MP because you don't take damage that you need to heal. No, it's hard. You just need a grind. It's bullshit. And it's like, okay. Which, unfortunately, Final Fantasy
Jeez, this guy's
got
really getting me.
people
I forgot about this.
into the habit of thinking, oh no, status effects are dumb. You don't need to do those. Which,
Well, yeah, but that's why I really appreciate my experience with 4DS.
Because they up the challenge and
Because
you have
it's
to
a
use
real
the
RPG?
You have to use
Because it
the
actually encourages you. Because it actually encourages you to use debuffs.
Oh,
And
no.
all that. I mean, because those are
No.
Because before 4DS, like the amount of buffs or debuffs I was using myself amounted to, protect, shell, haste, maybe slow, and maybe poison. But that's about it. I
you
never
lost.
really thought
Oh
about
man,
that.
I game overed it the moment I got my limit break too. Oh.
That's too bad.
Fuck.
Maybe she used the debuff.
yeah. And I was joking about Final Fantasy not being a real RPG. It is a real RPG. It's just that I think that here's the thing. I guess the point I was trying to make is that there's room for both the SMTs and the Pokemons of the world. There's room for easy RPGs as there is room for hard RPGs, and I always felt that Final Fantasy was meant to be a easy popcorn kind of RPG that is more about flash than it is about combat
Substance.
depth. And that's not to say that it's brain dead. I mean, some of them are, but
Yeah.
it's okay to have something that's more about flash than it is about depth. I mean, like, this channel, basically, the most popular commentaries we do are on Sonic the Hedgehog, and I would say many of those games are more about flash than about substance. So the same thing can apply to
Them's
RPGs
fighting
as
words.
well. I mean, dude,
that
that entire franchise is born on, oh man, look at how much cooler we are than that stupid Mario. We're just so cool and run fast.
Yeah,
and
I know. At the same time, it did introduce quite a lot of physics and mechanical complexity attached to those physics that Mario didn't have. So,
Yeah, I know. But that's why I said a lot of
yeah,
them
I know.
and not
I know.
all of
I'm
them.
just messing.
Yeah, I know.
This Wrathhound boss stands as an example of what will happen if you're not on the ball with the combat system, because you can get wrecked really goddamn fast in Final Fantasy VII if you're not paying attention. And if I remember right, when I recorded this session, I was getting pretty goddamn tired by the time I got to Wrathhound here, because it was like 3 a.m. So I wiped out in my first attempt at Wrathhound. But on my second attempt, I completely demolished it. The tables were turned, because losing that fight woke me up. And I was just like, okay, it's on now.
You took off your anime training
You,
clothes.
you leaned forward on your seat and narrowed your eyes a little
Oh,
bit.
one thing
That doesn't do anything for me.
One thing I want to mention about Cloud's triple slash attack, the one you get for his second sword, is that, okay, normally he'll zip from one enemy to the next when he uses triple slash and hit 3 enemies once, but if there are fewer than 3 enemies, he'll just attack 1 target or 2 targets. And he will attack with all 3 attacks. So, if you're up against 1 enemy, the triple slash can be better than Braver.
So, minor like side note, I am really, really grateful that they have the ability to teleport back to the guy to finish the quest
Oh, yeah.
immediately after you finish the quest.
Yeah.
Like every game needs to have that.
Well, it's a
Well, that or a you completed the quest. Here's your reward. You don't have to go back to talk to
like in
them for it.
Xenoblade. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I like the idea of going back so that you can wrap up the little story that the quest is supposed to
Yeah.
have. But yes, I think that, or worst case scenario, just a competent teleport system in general, so that you don't have to backtrack across the entire world. But
Yeah. I mean, it's not really a huge deal in this game in particular. It's nice that they have the convenience, but the hub areas where you do the quests tend not to be very big. It's really only really useful, like in the second hub area where some of the monster slaying quests take you way far away across the slums through the monster infested corridor. But here in Sector 7, not so much. Because, well, you were right next to that guy by the time you beat that monster anyway. Anyway, I will see you all next time with part 5, for real this time, of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Still not going to explain that.